After I became a millionaire, my assistant confessed what she saw involving my husband. My name is Isabel Monroe. I built a luxury skincare empire from the ground up. Monroe Botanicals, now valued at $43 million, and sold in every high-end department store from Manhattan to Beverly Hills. I own the company entirely. Every formula, every patent, every gilded jar bearing my initials. But that morning, standing in my Boston penthouse overlooking the harbor, I wasn't thinking about revenue or product launches. I was thinking about the way Elena's hands had trembled when she handed me my coffee. The September light came through the floor-to-ceiling windows in clean, sharp lines. Everything in my home was designed to feel untouchable. Marble countertops the color of winter fog, velvet furniture in deep emerald, fresh white orchids replaced every Monday. The kind of space that whispers wealth without ever needing to shout it. I'd worked 15 years to afford this view, this silence, this life that looked so perfectly curated from the outside. Elena had been my personal assistant for 3 years. Quiet, efficient, loyal. She knew my schedule better than I did, anticipated my needs before I voiced them, managed the chaos of my life with a grace I'd come to depend on completely. We weren't friends. The boundary was clear. But there was trust. Or so I believed. That morning, something had changed. Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Like this video so this story reaches more hearts, and subscribe for the next journeys. She'd avoided my eyes when she set down the coffee cup. Her usual composure had cracked just slightly, a hesitation in her movements, a tightness around her mouth. I'd noticed but said nothing, assuming it was personal. Maybe a problem with her family, maybe exhaustion. I had a board meeting in 2 hours and a product launch presentation to finalize. But then she'd paused at the doorway of my home office. "Mrs. Monroe," she'd said, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's something I need to tell you. About Mr. Monroe." The world had narrowed to that single sentence. My husband, Ethan. The man I'd been married to for 12 years. The man who'd supported me through every late night in the lab, every failed prototype, every investor meeting that had gone catastrophically wrong. The man who still brought me tea when I worked past midnight, who remembered how I took my coffee even though Elena was the one who usually prepared it. I'd looked up from my laptop, my heart suddenly loud in my chest. "What about him?" I'd asked, keeping my voice level, professional. But my hands had gone cold. Elena's eyes had filled with something I couldn't name. Pity, maybe, or fear. "I saw him," she'd begun, then stopped. Her throat worked as she swallowed. "I wasn't sure if I should, but you deserve to know." The words hung between us like smoke. I'd waited, my entire body rigid for her to continue, to tell me what she'd seen, to shatter or confirm something I hadn't even known I'd been afraid of. But she'd hesitated too long, and in that silence, I realized I wasn't ready to hear it. Not yet. Not until I understood what it would mean. I'd told Elena we would talk later. The words had come out calm, controlled, exactly the way I'd trained myself to speak in boardrooms when everything inside me was screaming. She'd nodded, relief and concern mixing in her expression, and quietly left my office. The door had closed with a soft click that somehow felt louder than it should have. I'd sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the harbor through the window, watching the morning light turn the water silver. My routine that day had continued as if nothing had shifted. That's what wealth teaches you, how to maintain appearances, even when the foundation is cracking. I'd gone to my meeting, smiled at the right moments, approved the new packaging design for our winter collection, signed off on a marketing budget that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. Everyone in that boardroom saw Isabel Monroe, founder and CEO, a woman who'd built an empire with her own hands. No one saw the woman whose assistant had just implied her marriage might be a lie. By afternoon, I was back in the penthouse, The space felt different now, as if Elena's unfinished confession had altered the air itself. I moved through rooms I'd decorated with such care. The living room with its custom Italian furniture, the kitchen with marble imported from Carrara, the master bedroom where Ethan's suit still hung in perfect rows in his closet. Everything looked exactly as it should. But I found myself noticing things I'd stopped seeing. The way Ethan's side of the bed was always perfectly made when I woke up, because he left for his architecture firm before dawn. The way his phone was always face down on the nightstand. The way he'd started going to the gym 4 nights a week instead of 2, coming home with wet hair and that flushed, energized look that I'd found attractive but never questioned. I walked to his dresser and stood there, my reflection caught in the mirror above it. At 41, I looked successful. My skin glowed. My own products worked. At least there was that truth. My hair was still dark and thick, styled in the effortless way that actually required significant effort. I wore a cream cashmere sweater that had cost more than my first month's rent when I'd started my company in a tiny laboratory in Cambridge. But my eyes looked uncertain. I opened Ethan's top drawer, feeling like an intruder in my own home. Cufflinks, watches. A leather box containing the vintage Rolex I'd given him for our 10th anniversary. Nothing unusual, nothing hidden. Except, at the back, beneath a stack of pocket squares, my fingers touched paper. I pulled out a small envelope, cream-colored, expensive. No name on it. Inside was a card, the kind you'd find at a high-end stationery store. Heavy stock, embossed edges. The handwriting was feminine, elegant. Thank you for understanding. Tuesday was exactly what I needed. M. My hands had gone still. Tuesday. 3 days ago. The day Ethan had texted me that he was working late on the Newberry Street project. The day I'd eaten dinner alone in this apartment, going over product formulations while he was supposedly in his office. I'd slipped the card back exactly where I'd found it, my heart beating in a rhythm that felt wrong. Elena had seen something, and now I'd found something, but I still didn't know what any of it meant. That evening, Ethan came home at 7 with takeout from our favorite Italian restaurant in the North End. "Thought we could use a night in," he'd said, kissing my forehead the way he always did, his hand briefly touching the small of my back. "You've been working too hard on the launch." He looked the same as always, handsome in that understated way I'd fallen for 13 years ago. Salt and pepper hair, kind eyes, the slight tiredness around his mouth that came from caring too much about his projects. He'd loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves, and he moved through our kitchen with the easy familiarity of someone who belonged there. We ate at the dining table overlooking the city. He asked about my day. I told him about the meeting, the new packaging, the marketing budget. All true, all surface. I didn't mention Elena. I didn't mention the card. Instead, I watched him. The way he used his fork. The way he smiled when he talked about a difficult client who'd finally approved his design for a boutique hotel in Cambridge. The way he reached across the table and squeezed my hand when I mentioned feeling tired. "You've earned the right to rest," he'd said gently. "You've built something extraordinary, Belle. Don't forget to enjoy it." Belle. He was the only person who called me that. It had always felt intimate, like a name reserved for the version of myself I only showed him. Now it felt like a test. After dinner, he'd gone to take a shower. I'd heard the water running, steam seeping under the bathroom door, and I'd sat on our bed with my phone in my hand, staring at Elena's contact. I could have called her, asked her to finish what she'd started that morning, demanded to know exactly what she'd seen, where she'd seen it, when. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was the part of me that had spent 15 years building a business from nothing, learning that some questions, once asked, change everything. You can't unknow things. You can't take back revelations. Or maybe it was something deeper. The truth was, I'd been so focused on building Monroe Botanicals that I'd stopped paying attention to building my marriage. The late nights in the lab, the weekend work sessions, the business trips to New York, Los Angeles, Miami. I'd assumed Ethan understood. He'd always said he was proud of me, that he loved watching me create something meaningful. But when was the last time I'd asked him how he was? Really asked, not just in passing while checking my email? When was the last time we'd made love without me falling asleep halfway through? When was the last time I'd chosen him over a product launch? The shower turned off. I heard Ethan moving around in the bathroom, the familiar sounds of his nightly routine. In a few minutes, he'd come out in his navy pajama pants, his hair damp, smelling like cedar and mint from the soap I'd formulated for him specifically. He'd climb into bed beside me, maybe read for a while, maybe reach for my hand in the dark, and I'd be lying there, wondering who M was, wondering what Tuesday had meant to her, wondering what Elena had seen that made her hands shake. The bathroom door opened, and Ethan emerged exactly as I'd pictured. Damp hair, gentle smile, the man I'd promised my life to. "Come to bed," he said softly. "You look exhausted." I did, but not from work. The next morning I made a decision. I asked Elena to meet me at a small cafe in Beacon Hill, away from the office, away from the penthouse, away from anywhere we might be recognized. Neutral ground, the kind of place where serious conversations happened between people who needed privacy. She arrived 10 minutes early, her face pale, her usual composure fragile. We ordered coffee neither of us touched. "Tell me," I said simply, my hands wrapped around the warm cup. "Whatever you saw, I need to know." Elena's eyes filled immediately. She looked down at the table, at her untouched latte, anywhere but at me. "Mrs. Monroe, She stopped, breathed. "I've been struggling with this for 2 weeks. I didn't want to hurt you, but I also couldn't keep working for you, seeing you every day, knowing what I know, and saying nothing." 2 weeks. She'd been carrying this for 2 weeks while I'd been completely unaware, focused on launch dates and revenue projections. "Just tell me," I said, and my voice was steadier than I felt. She nodded, gathering courage. "I was picking up your dry cleaning on Newberry Street, the usual place. It was a Tuesday afternoon, around 3. You were in New York for meetings." She paused, her fingers trembling against her cup. "I saw Mr. Monroe coming out of that French bistro, the one with the blue awning." My heart had started beating too fast. "He wasn't alone," Elena continued, her voice barely audible. "He was with a woman. She was elegant. Dark hair, maybe late 30s. They were standing close, talking, and then..." She stopped, closing her eyes as if the memory hurt to recall. He hugged her. Not a friendly hug. It was intimate. Long. His hand was in her hair. The cafe noise had faded to white sound. I could see it so clearly. Ethan, my Ethan, holding someone else with tenderness. The same tenderness he showed me. "They got into a car together," Elena whispered. "A black sedan. I watched them drive away. And Mrs. Monroe, the way he looked at her. I've seen him look at you that way. That's how I knew it wasn't just a business colleague." I'd sat there, frozen, while my entire world rearranged itself. Tuesday. 3 days before I'd found the card. Tuesday was exactly what I needed. "Did you see where they went?" I asked, my voice strange to my own ears. "No. I'm sorry. I just stood there, shocked, and by the time I thought to do anything, they were gone." Elena reached across the table as if to touch my hand, then thought better of it. "I understand if you want to fire me," she said quietly. "I debated telling you at all. Maybe I should have minded my own business. But if it were me, I'd want to know. I'd looked at her then. Really looked at her. This young woman who'd managed my chaos for 3 years, who'd seen me at my best and worst, who'd just destroyed my sense of reality out of loyalty. You did the right thing, I'd heard myself say. Thank you for telling me. But inside, I was screaming. I'd left the cafe and walked. Hours, maybe. Through the common, past the public garden, along streets I'd walked 1,000 times but had never really seen. The October air was sharp, leaves turning gold and red, the city beautiful in that crisp New England way that usually made me grateful for the life I'd built here. Now it all felt like set dressing for a play I hadn't known I was performing in. By the time I returned to the penthouse, it was late afternoon. Ethan had texted twice asking if I was okay. I hadn't responded. I stood in our bedroom, looking at that dresser drawer where I'd found the card. And for the first time since Elena had spoken those words that morning in my office, I let myself feel it. The rage, the betrayal, the crushing weight of not knowing how long this had been happening, who this woman was, what she meant to him, what I meant to him anymore. I pulled out my phone and opened my messages to Ethan. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Who is M? 3 words. That's all it would take. But I didn't send it. Because I realized, standing there in the bedroom we'd shared for 12 years, that I wasn't ready for his answer. I wasn't ready for the conversation that would follow. I wasn't ready to hear him confirm what I already knew. Not yet. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a suite at the Boston Harbor Hotel, the kind of anonymous luxury I usually only experienced on business trips. I texted Ethan that I needed space to think about a major business decision, that I'd be working through some things, and would see him tomorrow. It wasn't entirely a lie. He'd responded immediately. Whatever you need. I love you. I'd stared at those 3 words until they stopped making sense. The suite overlooked the water. I stood at the window as the sun set, watching the harbor turn from blue to gold to deep purple, and I forced myself to be honest about things I'd been avoiding for years. The truth was, my marriage had been dying long before Elena saw Ethan with another woman. Not dramatically, not obviously, but in the quiet way that happens when 2 people start living parallel lives instead of intersecting ones. When success becomes a replacement for intimacy. When building an empire means there's no energy left to build a life. I'd thrown everything into Monroe Botanicals. Every hour, every thought, every piece of myself. And Ethan had supported it. Genuinely, generously. He'd never complained about the late nights, or the missed dinners, or the way I'd turned our dining table into a research station for months at a time. But support isn't the same as connection. When was the last time we'd had a real conversation? Not about logistics or schedules, but about dreams, fears, the things that mattered beneath the surface. When was the last time I'd asked him if he was happy? When was the last time I'd been fully present with him, not thinking about formulations or profit margins or the next product launch? I sat on the edge of the hotel bed and called my sister, Margot. She lived in Chicago, ran a small art gallery, had been married and divorced twice. She answered on the second ring. Belle? What's wrong? I'd always been the strong one, the successful one, the sister who had everything figured out. Hearing the concern in her voice made something crack inside me. I think Ethan's having an affair, I said, and saying it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Silence. Then, what happened? I told her. Elena, the card, the woman with dark hair. Tuesday afternoon on Newberry Street. Margot listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. What do you want to do? She asked finally. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to confront him, demand answers, end it. But another part what? I closed my eyes. Another part wonders if I drove him to this. If I was so focused on building my company that I forgot to build my marriage. If this is somehow my fault. Belle, no. Margot's voice was firm. You don't get to take responsibility for his choices. If he was unhappy, he should have talked to you. If he felt neglected, he should have said something. Not this. But was that true? Had he tried to talk to me? Had there been signs I'd missed because I was too busy, too distracted, too consumed by my own ambitions? I thought about the past year. The way he'd suggested couples therapy, and I'd said I didn't have time. The way he'd planned a weekend trip to Vermont and I'd canceled because of a product crisis. The way he'd asked me to cut back on travel, and I'd explained, patiently, that this was what building a business required. I've been a terrible wife, I whispered. You've been building something incredible, Margot countered. That doesn't make you terrible. It makes you human. We talked for another hour. She didn't give me answers. There weren't any simple ones. But she gave me something more valuable. Permission to be hurt, confused, and lost, without knowing exactly what came next. After we hung up, I ordered room service. I didn't eat, and took a bath that didn't relax me. I lay in the hotel bed, staring at the ceiling, and I let myself imagine what my life would look like without Ethan. Successful, certainly. Wealthy, undoubtedly. I'd still have my company, my penthouse, my name on products in stores across the country. But empty. That was the word that kept returning. Empty. Because underneath all the success, all the money, all the recognition, what I'd wanted most was to build a life with someone, to share it, to have my achievements mean something because there was someone who truly knew me witnessing them. And I'd been so busy achieving that I'd forgotten the sharing part. My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. Missing you. Hope you're taking care of yourself. I read it 3 times, searching for deception in pixels, trying to see the man who'd held another woman in his arms through the words on a screen. I couldn't. All I saw was the husband I'd been taking for granted. The husband who might be taking me for granted too. I returned home the next afternoon. Ethan was in the kitchen when I walked in, chopping vegetables for what looked like dinner. He turned when he heard me, his face flooding with relief. And I saw something in his expression that I'd somehow stopped noticing. How much he worried about me. How much he cared. Hey, he said softly, setting down the knife. Are you okay? I set my overnight bag down and looked at him. Really looked at him, the way I used to when we first met. Before the business consumed me. Before success became more important than connection. I need to ask you something, I said. He nodded, his expression shifting to concern. Anything. Are you happy? The question seemed to catch him off guard. He opened his mouth, closed it, then leaned against the counter, considering. That's a complicated question, he said finally. I know, but I need a real answer. He was quiet for a long moment, and I watched emotions move across his face. Surprise, uncertainty, something that might have been sadness. I'm proud of you, he said carefully. I love watching you succeed. Seeing what you've built, how far you've come. Belle, it's extraordinary. That's not what I asked. He sighed, running his hand through his hair. No, it's not. He looked at me, and his eyes were more honest than they'd been in months. I miss you. Even when you're here, I miss you. It feels like we're roommates sometimes, not partners, not husband and wife. The words hit exactly where they were meant to, because they were true. I know, I whispered. I felt it too. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, that I'd admitted it. I've been so focused on the company, I continued, my voice steadier now. So consumed by building and growing and proving myself. And somewhere along the way, I stopped putting that same energy into us. Ethan crossed the kitchen and took my hands, his touch warm and familiar. We both let it happen, he said quietly. I should have said something sooner. I should have insisted we make time, demanded your attention when I needed it. But I didn't want to be the husband who held you back from your dreams. I looked up at him, at this man I'd been married to for 12 years, and I realized how close we'd come to losing each other without either of us saying a word. I want to fix this, I said. Whatever it takes, I want us back. He pulled me into his arms, and I let myself sink into the embrace, breathing him in. Cedar and mint, and something uniquely Ethan. Me too, he murmured into my hair. We stood there for a long time, holding each other in our expensive kitchen with its marble countertops and custom cabinets, all the trappings of success surrounding us while we tried to remember how to be married. But even as I held him, even as I felt the warmth of his arms and the steadiness of his heartbeat, there was a part of me that couldn't fully surrender, because I still didn't know who M was. I still didn't know what Tuesday had meant. And Elena's words kept echoing, the way he looked at her. That evening, after we'd eaten dinner and pretended at normalcy, after Ethan had gone to bed, I'd stayed up in my office, not working, just thinking. I pulled out my phone and opened my email, scrolled back to early October, looking for anything that might give me a clue. And there it was, an email from Ethan's calendar, shared with mine automatically. Tuesday, 3 weeks ago. 3 p.m. Newbury Street. The appointment label simply said, M. Important. I'd never noticed it before. Why would I? I barely glanced at Ethan's schedule except to coordinate our limited time together. I clicked on it, my heart racing, and saw that it was a recurring appointment. Every Tuesday for the past 2 months. Same time. Same cryptic label. My fingers moved to the search bar. I typed M into my email and started looking through every message, every thread, every correspondence I'd had access to. Nothing. But then I remembered. Ethan had his own email account, his own private correspondence that I'd never had reason to look at. I sat there in the dim light of my office, staring at my laptop screen, and I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would ask him directly. No more wondering, no more piecing together fragments, no more letting fear keep me from the truth. Whatever M was, whatever Tuesday meant, whatever Elena had seen, I deserved to know. And Ethan deserved the chance to tell me himself. Before I did something that would break us beyond repair. The next morning, I asked Ethan to cancel his Tuesday appointment. We were having coffee in the living room, the October sun streaming through the windows, the city spread out below us like a promise. He looked up from his phone, surprised. How did you know I had something on Tuesday? Your calendar syncs with mine, I said, keeping my voice even. It's been there every week for 2 months, 3 o'clock, Newbury Street. Someone called M. I watched his face carefully, waiting for guilt, for panic, for the confession I'd been dreading. Instead, his expression softened into something I couldn't quite read. Belle, he said quietly, setting down his coffee. I was going to tell you. I've been waiting for the right time. My stomach dropped. This was it. The moment everything fell apart. Tell me now, I whispered. He reached for my hand, and I let him take it, even though every instinct told me to pull away. M is Dr. Margaret Chen, he said. She's a therapist. I stared at him, the words not making sense at first. A therapist? He nodded, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. I've been seeing her for 8 weeks, Every Tuesday at 3. The world tilted slightly. You're in therapy? I am. His eyes held mine, honest and vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen in years. Because I was drowning, Belle. I was watching you build this incredible empire, watching you become exactly who you were meant to be, and I was so proud. But I was also lost. I didn't know how to tell you that I felt invisible in your life, that I was lonely in our marriage, that I didn't know who I was anymore beyond being your supportive husband. Tears were streaming down my face before I realized I was crying. The woman Elena saw, I managed. Dark hair, in her late 30s. Dr. Chen, he confirmed. I'd been telling her about a breakthrough I'd had in our session. About finally understanding that I needed to talk to you, really talk to you, about how I was feeling. She gave me a hug when we left the bistro where we'd had coffee after our appointment. It was just human kindness, nothing more. I pulled my hand from his and covered my face, shame and relief and grief washing over me in waves. I thought you were having an affair, I whispered through my fingers. I know. His voice was gentle. Elena came to me yesterday. She was terrified she'd misunderstood what she saw, that she'd caused damage by telling you. She explained what happened, and I told her she did exactly the right thing. You deserved to know what she witnessed, even if the context was different from what it looked like. I lowered my hands and looked at him. Why didn't you tell me you were going to therapy? He smiled sadly. For the same reason you didn't tell me you were struggling with our marriage. We both got so good at protecting each other that we forgot how to be honest with each other. The truth of it settled between us like something precious and fragile. What did the card mean? I asked. The one in your drawer. Tuesday was exactly what I needed. That was from Dr. Chen, he said. I'd had a particularly difficult session where I finally admitted how much I resented your success sometimes, how guilty that made me feel, how afraid I was that I was becoming bitter. She sent that card to remind me that honesty, even uncomfortable honesty, was progress. I started laughing then, a broken sound that was half sob. I was so sure, so convinced. I found this evidence and built an entire story around it. And I was keeping secrets, Ethan said, even if they weren't the secrets you imagined. I should have told you from the beginning that I was struggling, that I needed help figuring out how to be married to someone whose star was rising while mine felt stagnant. Your star isn't stagnant, I said fiercely. You're brilliant. Your work is beautiful. I know that now, he said. Dr. Chen has helped me see it. But I'd convinced myself that being Mr. Monroe, husband of the skincare mogul, was all I was allowed to be. We sat there as the morning light grew stronger. Two people who'd nearly lost each other because neither had been brave enough to be vulnerable. I want to go with you, I said finally, to therapy. If you'll let me. If Dr. Chen thinks it would help. Ethan's smile was the first genuine one I'd seen in months. She's been asking when you'd be ready to join. I told her I didn't know if you'd ever have time. I'll make time, I said. I'll cancel meetings, reschedule launches, delegate more, whatever it takes. Belle, I mean it. I took his hands in mine. I built a $43 million company, Ethan. I can figure out how to build a marriage too. I just needed to remember that it matters as much as any product line. More. He pulled me close, and this time when he held me, I was fully present, not thinking about work or launches or anything except the man I'd chosen and nearly lost. I love you, I whispered against his chest. I love you too, he said, even when we're terrible at showing it. That was 6 months ago. Now, standing in my penthouse on an April morning, I watch Ethan get ready for work with a contentment I didn't know was possible. We see Dr. Chen together now, every other week. The weeks in between, Ethan still goes alone. I've learned that his healing isn't about me. It's about him finding himself again. And I've learned that success without connection is just expensive loneliness. Monroe Botanicals is still growing. We just launched in 3 new countries. Revenue is up 30%. But I leave the office at 6 now, most days. I've hired a COO to handle operations. I've stopped checking email after 8 p.m. because I've discovered something that took becoming a millionaire to understand. The real luxury isn't marble countertops or harbor views or seeing your name on products in stores across the country. The real luxury is coming home to someone who knows you, really knows you, your fears and failures and secret shames, and loves you anyway. Elena still works for me. She's become more than an assistant, a friend maybe, though we maintain professional boundaries. She was right to tell me what she saw. Sometimes the truth looks like betrayal from one angle and salvation from another. This morning, Ethan kisses me goodbye at the door, his hand lingering on my cheek. "See you at 6?" he asks. 6, I confirm. I'm making dinner. His smile says he knows it'll probably be a disaster. Cooking was never my talent, but that he'll love it anyway. After he leaves, I stand at the window overlooking Boston Harbor, my coffee warm in my hands, and I think about the woman I was a year ago. So focused on building an empire that I almost lost the kingdom that mattered. My assistant had confessed what she saw, and it had saved my marriage. Not because Ethan was unfaithful, but because her confession forced us both to be honest about what we'd been too afraid to say. Sometimes the truth you're running from isn't the one you think it is. Sometimes the real revelation is discovering that the life you built, no matter how successful, means nothing if you're building it alone. If this story touched you, leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments and subscribe for the next journey. Not thinking about work or launches or anything except the man I'd chosen and nearly lost. "I love you," I whispered against his chest. "I love you too," he said. "Even when we're terrible at showing it." That was 6 months ago. Now, standing in my penthouse on an April morning, I watch Ethan get ready for work with a contentment I didn't know was possible. We see Dr. Chen together now, every other week. The weeks in between, Ethan still goes alone. I've learned that his healing isn't about me. It's about him finding himself again. And I've learned that success without connection is just expensive loneliness. Monroe Botanicals is still growing. We just launched in 3 new countries. Revenue is up 30%. But I leave the office at 6 now, most days. I've hired a COO to handle operations. I've stopped checking email after 8 p.m. because I've discovered something that took becoming a millionaire to understand. The real luxury isn't marble countertops or harbor views or seeing your name on products in stores across the country. The real luxury is coming home to someone who knows you, really knows you, your fears and failures and secret shames, and loves you anyway. Elena still works for me. She's become more than an assistant, a friend maybe, though we maintain professional boundaries. She was right to tell me what she saw. Sometimes the truth looks like betrayal from one angle and salvation from another. This morning, Ethan kisses me goodbye at the door, his hand lingering on my cheek. "See you at 6?" he asks. 6, I confirm. I'm making dinner. His smile says he knows it'll probably be a disaster. Cooking was never my talent, but that he'll love it anyway. After he leaves, I stand at the window overlooking Boston Harbor, my coffee warm in my hands, and I think about the woman I was a year ago. So focused on building an empire that I almost lost the kingdom that mattered. My assistant had confessed what she saw, and it had saved my marriage. Not because Ethan was unfaithful, but because her confession forced us both to be honest about what we'd been too afraid to say. Sometimes the truth you're running from isn't the one you think it is. Sometimes the real revelation is discovering that the life you built, no matter how successful, means nothing if you're building it alone. If this story touched you, leave your rating from 0 to 10 in the comments and subscribe for the next journey.